Hey, it's Johara. Welcome back to my channel, to the Witchy Reader. So I'm going to be talking about a series I haven't really talked about in a little while, and that is the Ever After High book series. So this video is about what went wrong with it. This book. So if you guys, I know I spoke about this series before, but it's been a while. The third book, which is this one, is the only one I still own. I gave the other ones to my siblings because I didn't like them. This is the third book, and it's the only one I like. So, story time. When I was in, I want to say not middle school, don't know that, elementary school, I think. I found this book at the library, and I like Ever After High. I do like Monster High a lot more. It's one of my favorite things, but I do still enjoy Ever After High, so I picked it up. Not knowing it's the third book in a series. I don't know why I didn't get the other books in this series after that, but I didn't until years and years, until a few years ago actually. I finally bought the entire series, which there's 4 books, and I was gonna read them because I remembered really enjoying the third book, and I just wanted to get back to the third book again, and that turned out to take a lot of energy out of me because I ended up not enjoying the first 2 books, and it took a lot to get to this book, but I usually don't force myself to read a book I do not like, but in this case, I wanted to read this book again because I wanted to see if I still enjoyed this book. This is the book I cared about, but I had to read the first 2 to get to it, and that was hard, especially the first book. But I finally trudged through it to get to this book. And in the end, it was worth it because I do love this book. I love it. But jeez, the first 2. Then I read the 4th book, and I wasn't a fan of that one either. I mean, so the 4th book is kind of a prequel, but you don't have to read it. I mean, it's based for the summer. I mean, the first book is about the summer ending and school beginning, and the 4th book is the summer before that year. But it's about, like, there'll be like one chapter that's about Apple White, and it's kind of just what she did during that summer, or a big adventure she had during that summer, and it did that for multiple characters. So I was like, okay, there's some characters like Apple I do not like and probably won't care about, but they had a couple of my favorite characters in there, Lizzie and Kitty and Maddie. I think all 3 of them had a chapter, and they are my top 3 favorite characters in Ever After High. And I try not to be bored even with their chapters. And I mean, I don't dislike it as much as I dislike the first 2. It was just boring, honestly. But the first one I hated. Second one better than the first one, but still not that great. But for anyone who does want to read this series, you do not have to read the entire series to understand this book. The only book you have to read to understand the events of this book is the second one, because the creature that they're fighting in here is released in the second book. So you really need to read the second book to understand this one, but you do not need to go through the first book. But I mean, you guys might like it. I mean, honestly, what I don't like is because Ever After High, I wasn't a fan of the first season. There was some things I liked in the first season, like Hunter and Ashlyn's relationship in the first season, and the True Hearts Day thing, and everyone going into each other's different fairy tales, trying to get something. I can't remember what now because it has been a while since I watched it, but they had to play out each other's fairy tales, and that was fun. But honestly, the first season wasn't that great, and the first book was a lot like the first season, mostly about Raven and Apple and all that, and I'm not a fan of Apple. I do like Raven though, but I hate Apple, and I do not like Apple and Raven's relationship or friendship, whatever you want to call it, because it's toxic as heck, and Apple is selfish as heck, and yeah. This book, on the other hand, I enjoy. Um, but probably because my favorite seasons in Ever After High are seasons 2 and 3. I wonder why. because those two seasons focus on the Ever After High or the Wonderland students, mostly Lizzie, Kitty, Maddie, Alistair, and Bunny. Lizzie's daughter, the Queen of Hearts. Maddie's daughter of Mad Hatter. Kitty's daughter of Cheshire Cat. Alistair's daughter of Alice, and Bunny's the or did I say daughter? Alistair is the son of Alice, and Bunny is the daughter of the White Rabbit. So that's why those are my two favorites. I do like other seasons that aren't about the Wonderland people. I like the fourth and fifth seasons, even though the Wonderlandians don't have as big of a role, if any role really at all. But this book is obviously about the Wonderlandians and Cedar. She got kind of thrown into it, but it's mostly about Maddie, Kitty, and Lizzie and Cedar. Um, and I think that is why I am a little bit biased towards it because those are my favorite characters. This book basically is about the first. I'm trying to remember what the other books are about. I told you what the fourth book is about. First one is, like I said, a lot like the first season of Ever After High, to be honest. At least that's the vibes I got off from it. Then the second book is about this creature getting released, and Maddie almost got hexpelled because they thought she released it, and so she was. Oh, it was worse than just getting hexpelled. She was gonna get banished to Wonderland, I think. Because the creature she released was terrible, and only the Wonderlandians know just how terrible it is. So everyone bands together to find out what really happened to save Maddie, and they do. And then book 3 is about the creature coming back and attacking, and everyone starts to turn into things. Like Raven turns into an actual raven, Apple turns into an actual apple, and so on. But not all their names have such, like, they're staring that's not an actual object or bird or whatever. So he turned into a tiny beast. Briar turned into a briar bush. I can't remember. I think Ashley turned into a glass slipper with her being daughter of Cinderella. But yeah, so but Cedar turned into a real girl. That's why she was able to help them. The Wonderlandians weren't affected because it was Wonderland magic. Because the creature that was released, spoiler alert, is the Jabberwocky. So uh, the Wonderlandians weren't infected by it because it's Wonderland magic and they were immune. Kind of like season 2 of Ever After High, if any of you have seen it. It's about someone reads several spells from it, and this Wonderland magic starts to. First, it turns people evil, and then it starts to turn everything gray, and then everyone is just all like kind of not really frozen, but like they can barely move. They're all just dull down, cause kind of. Oh no, what happened? Okay, so the spellbook turned people evil, but then Apple, being evil, closed the Well of Wonder, which is the well that leads to Wonderland, and the reason why that's the only portal left open to Wonderland is so that Wonderland can bring in some wonder to Ever After, so that it's not just dull and lifeless. So it's up to the Wonderlandians to get the spellbook and reverse everything and unplug the Well of Wonder, which it was all caused by Kitty's mom trying to be all mischievous. So Kitty has to band together with her friends, her Wonderland friends, and go against her mother and save Ever After and Wonderland and the Wonder. So same things for the Wonderland part. They're not immune because it's Wonderland magic, and but the Wonderland magic did affect Cedar differently because it was kind of doing twists on their stories. So she became a real girl. That's why she was able to help, because she was still there. She wasn't really transformed into anything that couldn't be useful, like Apple or Raven or anything. So Lizzie ends up being the leader of the group, and Lizzie, Maddie, and Kitty, even though they grew up in the same place, they weren't really close. Kitty being all mischievous, Maddie being like a hatter, Mad Hatter, and Lizzie being thinking that she didn't need friends or anything because of how her mom treated her. But then by the end, Lizzie realizes she wants friends, and Kitty realizes she doesn't want to be mischievous all the time and put everyone away from her. And Maddie doesn't really have a life lesson because she's still Maddie. But Lizzie even sacrifices herself at one point. It was an awesome scene. She's and she gets hurt pretty badly. But then, something happens, and there was a kind of twist at the end, which I have mixed feelings about, to be honest. But other than that, the book is 5-star read. I rated it 5 stars. I love this book, and I love the Wonderlandians, and I just enjoyed this book so much because. But overall, I really enjoy this book. It's really good. I like the friendships. I like the Wonderland aspect. I always liked Alice in Wonderland. I love the live action movies. Honestly, so good. Um, and apparently, my mom told me so fun story time. My mom said that when me and my sister was younger, Fantasia, we both were obsessed with Alice in Wonderland. So when she was pregnant with our one of our other sisters, Emerald, she asked us what we wanted her to name her, and she asked us in 2 different rooms, separated us so that we come up with to see what we come up with. Apparently, the only time we ever agreed on anything in our entire lives, I'm not even kidding, we are fire and ice. Apparently, we both said Alice because of Alice in Wonderland. She did end up naming her middle name Alice or Allison because of a relative. All of our middle names are named after relatives, but our first names are something really unique, obviously, and Alice is not that unique. So, she named her Emerald. But, yeah. Apparently, I'm a fan of Alice in Wonderland. I like the Wonderland concept, honestly. Everything's so crazy and insane, and that's definitely me. But overall, I loved it. The final fight, amazing. The Wonderland Enos, amazing. The characters, amazing. So I definitely think reading this book. I mean, if you don't want to read the second book or just want to jump into the book, then spoilers for the second book. Actually, I pretty much told you the entire concept. I mean, there's this party going on, and the students throw a surprise party. The cage, the like magical artifact or whatever that held the Jabberwocky was broken, and it was released, and Maddie was next to it when they were caught, so everyone thought it was Maddie. They went through a bunch of hoops to prove Maddie didn't do it, and were able to save Maddie. How? I don't remember because I only read the book once. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan. But it was definitely worth it to get to this gem because this is amazing. And I definitely recommend it for anyone who likes Ever After High, or if you just like fairy tales, and if you definitely if you like Alice in Wonderland, then great book to read. But yeah, I don't know what went wrong with the Ever After High series. The first book, sure, it's a lot like the first season, so it's obvious I wouldn't like it that much because I wasn't a huge fan of the first season. I'm sure many people are. Second book, no idea. I'm pretty sure the second book was just filler. Like they did the entire book, was just filler to get to this book, because like the Jabberwocky's released, but the Jabberwocky doesn't do anything the entire book. It just flies away and then returns in this book. It ends up in a slumber, and then something happens to make it wake up from the slumber at the very end of the book. And then the beginning of this book is when all the craziness starts to happen. And so I'm pretty sure the entire book is just filler to get to this book. And then the fourth book is just a bunch of different stories from different characters of what they did over summer break. But this book did not disappoint, so that's good at least. So I was so happy I was able to read this and loved it, and I'll definitely reread it at some point in the future. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment if you've ever read the series, if you've ever watched the series, and I'll chat with you below in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later.